I'd like to begin today by acknowledging and paying respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered today across Victoria. For me, it's in central Victoria, which is the Dja Dja Wurrung people. So I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging community leaders. So welcome everybody. If you'd like to put your name and where you're from into the chat, and as you might note, this session is being recorded. So thank you for coming along. We have a wonderful presentation today by Claire Rawlinson and Kat Mainsbridge, who are presenting on the Just-in-Time Partnership Initiative in Early Childhood. Claire is the current director of Kyneton Community House and oversees all the programs, including the education and occasional childcare, and brokered a range of partnerships for this project. And Kat has worked in the Learn Local space for over 13 years, including project leadership, education coordinator, and Kat also developed and led the surveys for this project and worked closely with the industry expert on developing the course resources. So this is a just-in-time early childhood education industry partnership. The project investigates the best ways to support prospective job seekers during their introduction to the industry through the development of Learn Local resources and partnerships with RTOs. One of the key focuses was the relationship and partnerships which were forged between the early education and childcare providers. And also one particular thing is developing the resources that's needed for an entry into the sector. So I might hand over to Claire and Kat, and the session will go for 20 minutes and then we'll open it up to some questions. So I'll hand over to you. Take it away.
Hi everyone. I'm Claire and this is Kat from Kyneton Community House. We might just jump straight in because we've got limited time. So I'm just about to share my screen with everyone. We've got a presentation for you. So we'll just start from the beginning. So as I said, I'm Claire from Kyneton Community House and this is Kat, and we're here to talk to you about our Just-in-Time Industry Partnerships project on the early childhood education and care in Kyneton and surrounding towns. So just as a bit of background, the reason we decided to do this project was that over the last few years, demographically, Kyneton has really shifted and there's a lot of young families coming to Kyneton, which has really put a lot of pressure on our childcare sector. In an ABC study, childcare was named Kyneton was named a childcare desert, with only one place available for every 5 to 14 children looking for care. At some point during late last year, this was anecdotally stated by all the care facilities in Kyneton that it was possibly 1 in 17, so only one place for every 17 children looking for care. So most of the providers in Kyneton are short-staffed. Two new childcare facilities have been built in the last 6 to 12 months. Neither one of them isn't open because they can't meet staff ratios. The other one only has a few rooms open because they can't staff it. So this is not closing the gap in terms of the childcare desert. We also noted that a lot of young people in our local area are disengaging with mainstream academic learning. We have a lot coming to us through ACFI programs and other avenues that are seeking more viable pathways outside of mainstream education. So our first steps in this project were obviously to make connections with our local providers and industry. So we did that through all manner of ways. Lots of phone calls were made, lots of meetings. We connected with council to see how we could reach out further. We connected with all the other service providers. We ascertained levels of interest in the project and they were high. People really want to fix this problem in Kyneton, probably regionally everywhere, but specifically to us in Kyneton and surrounding towns. So we found a lot of project support from industry partners. We formalised our goals with the outcomes being find viable employment pathways for people and to solve the problems industry are facing in terms of staffing levels. We collated relevant data in a really localised setting. Kat will speak to that in a minute. And we really let the project create itself from there. So a local early education and care working group was formed. It's headed up by the Macedon Ranges Shire Council. So we're a part of that group, we're part of its terms, and we do specific tasks with them to try and solve these problems. There are lots of other industry, childcare industry people in that working group. There's local secondary schools, there's Head Start, there's Bendigo TAFE and other RTOs. The Central Ranges Len actually deliver a Cert 3 in Gisborne and are seeking to in Kyneton as well. So we've connected very strongly with them. We also have other childcare service providers on board, other potential RTOs if things don't work out with the Len. And we've connected very strongly with the job seeker providers in the area to try and create pathways for people. I'm going to hand over to Kat.
Thanks, Claire. So yeah, we surveyed 7 local early childhood education services in Kyneton, Castlemaine, Daylesford, Woodend and Gisborne. They were all really pleased to be involved in the study, which was really great. Obviously, they were all really time poor, but they all did manage to make time to have a chat with me. So that was really appreciated. I'll just talk about some of the findings that we had. So I asked them about what were the main skills required for early childhood educators, and they all came back saying that communication was the main skill that was required. Obviously, working with children, working with families and other staff, communication really is key, and being able to adapt to different types of communication styles is really important. The other thing they cited was being able to take initiative in the workplace and just being able to step in and do jobs that needed to be doing at the time. The other thing that was sort of mentioned a few times in some of the other questions was an understanding of the actual framework of early childhood education. So that was something that we noted. And then there was a whole lot of other soft skills like passion and flexibility, motivation and confidence, and also patience. Obviously, working with children, you need a lot of that. Sorry, I just muted myself. The main elements that were missing from applicants was mainly around commitment and knowledge of the sector. So what people were finding was that they were getting applicants, they would start work, but then once they realised the complexity of the work, that it wasn't just always just sitting around, you know, singing songs and things. It was more than just actually babysitting. They weren't able to commit to the work. So there was a real missing link between knowing what they had to do and then being interested in the industry. So they were really underprepared. So that was something that we noted as well. Again, confidence came up a lot. So they just weren't confident in sometimes communicating with the children in an you know, an appropriate way, you know, like being able to sing songs and putting themselves out there. Some people weren't able to do that. And again, things like initiative kept coming up as well, like being able to see what's happening in the rooms, being able to work with your colleague and, you know, support them in their work, you know, just not sitting around thinking that other people are going to do the work. So that was brought up quite a lot too. And also people talked about obviously a lack of applicants. So they'd advertise and then they wouldn't get any applicants to fill the positions, which was obviously a problem. We asked them about what the most difficult skills were to learn. And so broken these down into 3 main areas. So the first one was the industry specific skills. So that was really around what was required in that specific industry. So things like patience and being able to build family relationships was quite difficult to learn. And also knowledge of children's development and being able to work with them at their age level. So obviously in childcare education, kids start at like really young infants and then they go up to kindergarten age. So really that knowledge of where those milestones are is really important. Then there was the more general work skills of like soft skills like time management and prioritisation of tasks, being able to do programming and planning, and the attention to detail is really important too. And then of course the main thing again is the communication skills and being able to adapt to the different scenarios in the workplace, either with children and then with their families. Working around the documentation, there's a lot of documentation that's required in early childhood education. And then also being able to speak to the parents about different milestones that the child has made during the day. It's really important too. So the main areas where students need the most support were around literacy. And that was interesting to us. Obviously, that's, you know, our background in literacy as a Learn Local organisation. So being able to complete all those documentation tasks is a really important thing in the workplace. And then also relating back to their study and being able to do the bookwork and the assessment tasks that's needed in their Cert 3 was an area that they did need support. Then their ability to participate in professional development was something that they needed support with. And then other things like time management and also how to build, like they really wanted to build a professional identity around childhood education. It's more than just babysitting. So that was a really important thing for the industry as a whole. So we were interested to know if there was any differences that they noticed between students that completed courses face-to-face or online, and there really was. They did note that students that did courses face-to-face were far more successful as workers, because they were able to have discussions and role plays and talk and, do different scenarios in their classes. And also that chance to have direct contact with their tutors and also other students, that was really important. And that also wasn't available in online courses. And some did raise concerns about the quality of assessors, so from the RTO. So we noted that as well. So we want to make sure that we engage with quality RTOs. And just back over to Claire.
So we've come up with this model. It looks a bit convoluted when you look at it later like this, but there's basically 3 particular streams. So keeping good, strong industry connections, consulting with industry constantly to see what their staff needs are is super important. Then engaging with participants and students through our networks. As Learn Locals, we all have pretty strong networks, I think. So that's another really important part. And then setting up accessible Cert 3 opportunities with appropriate RTOs and providers. There's 2 pathways we really identified that people would be coming to this industry. So through the job seeker pathway, people looking to change careers, people who have become suddenly unemployed, or people that are long-term unemployed, and also the schools pathways, which is not as relevant to us, but we could, you know, hook in with that stream when people leave school, or potentially get them to do our courses through other types of funding models. But for the ACFI courses, we're really looking at the job seeker pathway. So the key element is doing that introduction to ECEC, because they get soft skills, they learn about communication, and they learn the realities of the job, and then they can decide whether or not to realistically continue their study. But we're also looking at study support courses to help with literacy concerns in a, you know, side by side with a face-to-face RTO, or also potentially by running with a reputable online course if we can't get the numbers face-to-face, and supporting those students with some of those face-to-face benefits through study support. So all of this, in a nutshell, we are hoping leads to viable employment in this sector and a strengthening of the sector through that, and filling those gaps, making more childcare places available for our community.
Yeah, I'll just talk briefly about our course plan that our trainer, Stephanie Boyle, has put together. So I won't talk too much about it, but it's around 20 hours. So this would be for people thinking about doing the Cert 3, but just not sure about, you know, what they're getting into. So this would give them a really good grounding into the expectations of the industry. And we have embedded in each class a lot of activities around communication. So we're really wanting to focus a lot on the communication skills and other soft skills. So that's really highlighted in each of the sessions.
So I guess quickly we'll just have a look at our next steps. Our next steps are to engage enroll students in the Foundations program run by Stephanie. We'll formalise a partnership with an RTO to train. Whether or not that's face-to-face or online is yet to be ascertained. That will depend on the number of students we can enrol. And we'll also offer study support to those students with literacy assistance to bridge all those gaps. We're also looking at continuing partnering with the ECEC working group, so we just get better local outcomes overall. We're really excited about this work. We run a childcare here at Kyneton Community House. We understand the problems, and we're really keen to fill these gaps where we can. Oh, so that's it for us, I guess. So we're happy to open the floor to questions now, and you can contact us through Kat's email address there, or just look us up online and send us a message or give us a ring. We're happy to talk about this project and share our resources. You're on mute, Simon.
Sorry about that. Happens all the time. Look, thanks very much, Claire and Kat. We might open it up to the floor for questions. Who's first?
There is a question. Is there a question in the chat?
So Alex
Pop question in the chat.
wanted to know if they can get a copy of the slides, and sure, they can.
Right, any other questions? I'm sure there's some.
Don't be shy.
That's all right, I'll kick it off. So a question for you, Claire and Kat. You mentioned appropriate RTOs. What makes an appropriate RTO? Because I know that land can sometimes be a bit, it's hard to say. Sometimes the quality of RTOs varies a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking to the other providers, the providers we've already connected with, to see what their new staff, what RTOs they've used, and to see what sort of quality, you know, the training has been. We also have our own educator who is connected with a very reputable online course. I think it's One Planet, but you can ascertain the reputation of an online course through industry, I think. But we'd have to explore those options. The LEN, who we're thinking of partnering with, run a small school-based RTO program in Gisborne, and reputationally there's been good reports of them through the working group. So I guess it is very tricky, Simon, finding, I guess it is word of mouth and reputation in your local area. If you connect with providers, they will give you strong feedback on who they think give dodgy training. So that is our first step, I guess. We're hoping, I just got a question in the chat. We're hoping to get our learners through our job seeker connections, but also just word of mouth, social media, talking, and also through those school leavers. We've got a current trainee in our childcare who did not want to go through a school-based traineeship. And there's other young people in our area we know are exiting mainstream entirely, so they're no longer enrolled in school, but they're looking for viable pathways. She's been a really valuable contribution to our, she's awesome in our team, and she really, you know, is an example of where we can find people looking for these pathways. I guess it's tricky though. Finding students is tricky, and finding students that will actually commit and see it through is another thing altogether. So I guess we just open our doors and see who responds.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
No, I just asked if there were any other questions, but I can't see any more in the chat.
Thank you. I noticed with the back end of sort of COVID, the disengagement in schools was substantial.
It is,
so
yeah.
Learn Locals will be feeling the, you know, those people coming through, and you know, it's how to work with those young people as well, and finding pathways for them, and partnering with other organisations that you can pathway them onto.
Yeah, and bridging gaps in literacy and confidence and communication skills, I think, are the greatest things, not just for this industry, but for all of them, really.
And certainly for some learners, the Certificate 3 level might be a little bit tricky. So we've had success with a number of Learn Locals that have partnered with RTOs, and including TAFE, where the training has, there's been support alongside the Certificate 3 level training as well. And there's been much higher completion rates because of that.
Yeah, I think that's why the model is seeking to provide that study support, because you can get them into the Cert 3 course and build their confidence, but it can quite quickly fail students if they, you know, can't manage the course. So if we can sit with them, you know, through the course, that will give them better outcomes, we hope.
All right, any other questions?
I was just going to, sorry, it's Kathy here from Carringbush. That was really great, guys. And sorry, I came in a little bit late because I was on another meeting. But we're hoping to do something similar at Carringbush, where we've just got Cert 3 on our scope, and we're hoping to do some sort of taster course before and that. But I was just, yeah, we're finding it really difficult. One, finding participants, but also finding participants at the right level. So, you know, they're either sort of Cert 1 and 2 low for either of the pathways, or you know, or they're not appropriate in other ways. So we're sort of, yeah, we're finding it difficult too. So if you do find any other ways of tracking people down, let us know.
Yeah, no problem.
But
it's so tricky because the childcare sector is so sensitive as well. Like, you have to make sure that people are safe in the space as well.
Yes, yes.
Lots of barriers.
Yes. It's a really hard thing, isn't it? It's a very
Yeah.
fine balance of getting it all worked out with the learner and the for the placement, and then the language level, and there's a lot of variables, but yeah, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No worries.
Anyone that wants a copy of the slides can just email us at education@kynetoncommunityhouse.org.au. Or you can, if you haven't got that down, just look at our website and you can email our admin address and we will get them to you. So if you want a copy of the slides, they're available for anyone.
Fantastic. Thanks.
All right, we might wrap it up. Claire and Kat, thank you very much for presenting today. I'd just like to encourage everyone that we've got plenty more sessions coming along today. We've got some sessions starting at 11:20. There's introduction to working in a domestic violence sector program by Wellsprings for Women. Sussex Neighbourhood House at 11:20 doing Let's Shoot, Intro to Screen and Media. And Loddon Capacity Multicultural Services are doing Starting Work in Childcare Taster course. So Claire, you might want to jump into that one and have a look and see what they're doing and how it complements your course. So thank you everyone for coming along today, and I look forward to seeing you at one of the next ones. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.